Hello, welcome back to Madrona's Pulse Teachings. I am Iris, and we are chatting about the upcoming Virgo New Moon. Depends where you are. This is happening on the 22nd or the 23rd. It's at 2:06 a.m. Eastern Time on the 23rd, and there's a lot of layers here, folks. This new moon is going to be our last new moon that then opens us up into eclipse season. And it is a very, very Virgo time for us. So I'm going to open up some of the layers about why I find the next 6 weeks to be incredible for setting intentions, for healing, for paradigm shifting in our own ways. I'll probably have another video on this new moon as we get closer to it. But I really want to work in some of the layers because there's a lot. Okay. Let's just start with the basics. This is our Virgo new moon on the 23rd, and it is at 0 degrees of Virgo. So we have got our sun and our moon together at 0 degrees of Virgo. You do want to have a look at your chart if you do such things and see where do you have 0 degrees to 29 degrees of Virgo, because that whole area of your life psyche chart, that is being worked with, and we are being invited to bring in some deep healing and potentially rapid growth spurts in this area of our life. If you don't work with your chart, it is okay. Just listen, take what lands and work with your intuition. But part of the reason this is so important is because we have this new moon, then we enter eclipse season. Our first eclipse is a lunar eclipse, which is a full moon, and that is happening with our moon at 15 degrees of Pisces and our sun at 15 degrees of Virgo. And that full moon is really close to the north node, which is what makes it an eclipse. And the sun is really close to the south node in Virgo. And then we have our second eclipse, which is a second Virgo new moon. So we've got 2 Virgo new moons, also referred to as a black moon. And that happens on September 21st. And that is going to be at 29 degrees of Virgo. So we are really working with Virgo energy, Virgo growth, Virgo release. And that is, of course, always working with the opposite energy, which is Pisces. So I'm going to speak about some of the layers that could be coming up with that. But, one of the things that is important as we're moving through the next 6 weeks is set your new moon intentions, which this video will help you with. Those intentions are going to carry you through the next 6 weeks. And then as you come to that second Virgo new moon, you want to check in. I suggest writing your intentions down. It'd be great to do that as I'm talking about the energy here. If things come up, you just jot them down, or if you go and you have your rituals in which those intentions come to you. Because when we get to that second new moon, you're going to want to see how those intentions may have shifted, how the 6 weeks may have brought in some growth, some change, some eclipse portaling. And you want to check in with them and then set your intentions that then we are working with for 6 months, because we work loosely with 6 months cycles when we're in eclipse season. And this new moon is really opening us into eclipse season. And it's very powerful because, as we know, part of what makes this time, August 2025 into 2026, so powerful has to do with the outer planets. And in August, they are talking so closely with each other, especially as we come into this new moon. The trine between Pluto and Aquarius and Uranus and Gemini is very close. That's also working with Sedna and Gemini. And the sextile between Pluto and Neptune is very close. Similarly, Neptune and Uranus and Sedna. They're all talking, and Saturn is, of course, there. Saturn, however, has moved to the 0 degree point of Aries. It is getting ready to go back into Pisces, where it will be for both eclipses. But for this new moon upcoming, it's at 0 degrees of Aries. It is talking directly with this new moon, and Saturn is talking directly with our second Virgo new moon, that closing of eclipse season. And all the outer planets are talking. So it is powerful. It's also important. I'm probably going to use the word powerful several times because that is the energy right now. It's also important because the outer planets are talking so closely, and now they're going to speak directly with new moon. And that makes us feel what is transpiring in this paradigm shifting symphony that is the outer planets very personally. And it gives us opportunity to really seed it into our own lives. So let's talk about Virgo energy a little bit, and then I'll bring in the aspects. So Virgo, 0 degrees. This is where our new moon is on the 23rd. 0 degrees of Virgo. I like to work with the 0 degree point for our tarot folks out there as the Fool card. There is something about opening up to new Virgo energy in your life. And these next 6 weeks are really going to help to clear the patterns because our south node is in Virgo. And for our lunar eclipse, which is on September 7th, the sun is going to be very close. I am sorry. We know that. Okay. Thumbs up. Yeah. Thank you. Computer technology. The sun is going to be very close to that south node. And so the south node is in Virgo. We're entering eclipse season. There is massive clearing, but there is also seeding and new potentials. And it's just so significant that it's a new moon at 0 degrees and a new moon at 29 degrees. Okay, so Virgo energy. Virgo is earth energy. It is ultimately how we are able to be in this earthly realm, this 3D realm, and we are able to sanctify. We are able to create the structures that allow that Pisces, divine source, mystery, creator, spirit to come into this realm. So Virgo actually archetypally can have a lot of pressure because it knows unconsciously for most Virgo structures that it's important. The way that Virgo goes about creating systems, working with the earthly plane, working with the material plane, creating structures in this very focused way, it really is about the here and now. Because it wants to create the structures so that Pisces energy can stream in right now. So right away, Virgo can also be its own worst enemy. Because Virgo can get very focused on thinking that there is a specific way it should be done. And when Virgo is looking too far ahead, then it is not in the present moment. It is not in the here and now. And Virgo needs to be in the here and now. It needs to be mindfully present, which is also why Virgo rules the mind-body connection. And Virgo is a very interesting earth energy because when Virgo gets out of whack, when it gets too focused on how it could be, on how it should be, Virgos. Strong Virgo energy. When I say Virgos, I don't just mean Virgo suns. Sun astrology is not what I'm talking about. If you have a Virgo sun, then yes, you have strong Virgo energy, but Virgo placements. There's tons of folks out there, I'm talking to you right now, who have Pluto in Virgo. Also probably Uranus in Virgo. And then your personal planets on top. That's what makes strong Virgo placements. It might be a sun, it might not be a sun. Unfortunately, part of the modern development of astrology has been to align our sense of self only with our sun energy. And if you have a Virgo moon, if you have Mercury, like all of our placements are very important. And so strong Virgo signature needs to focus on the mind-body connection because it keeps us in the present. And when it's not, the anxiety usually the Virgo dysregulation shoots up into anxiety and also whether it's the gut or body-mind complex relationships that get out of whack. And what happens is Virgo can become a strong perfectionist. Virgo can romanticize the idea of martyr and service. Virgo needs to learn to be of service to the present moment to the mind-body connection of itself, to be so devoted to that mind-body presence, because that is how it's going to bring its own ability to structure, to focus, to be in the present moment onto whatever its focused and its task is. Virgo energy is so much, like so many people out there are just talking about Virgo as clean. Virgo energy is so much deeper than that. And also, if you're a Virgo, if you've got strong Virgo energy and you're messy, that's totally fine. Okay. Virgo is about having its own way of doing things. And they're deeply important to that Virgo signature. For some Virgos, that's a clean space. For others, it's having their own structure that then they work with in their own way. But what's so important is not thinking that Virgo is leading the dance. Pisces, creative source energy, is leading the dance. Virgo's job is to follow Pisces' lead. And this eclipse season and this first new moon is helping us seed in to the ways that we are here to follow divine source's lead. And so any places where you have clung to perfection, this also is part of what we want to let go in the next 6 weeks. This also has a lot to do with the body, okay? Virgo is this is probably going to be a longer video than my usual. Virgo is part of our deep relationship to the body. It literally is the mind-body connection, but it's sourced through the body. It's an earth sign. Oh, the body. Oh, embodiment. I was just talking about embodiment in a video I made for my Patreon folks. It's a complicated word to work with. It's used all over the place, and that in some ways that's wonderful, and in some ways when the word embodiment is used, it's not actually working with actual embodiment, because when we're talking about embodiment, we're not in an embodied place. Embodiment is literally the consciousness of the body that wants to ideally work in harmony with our very overactive minds. And Virgo is a sign that wants to govern that relationship. And it's beautiful. And when they are synced, there's nothing like it. And yet, in a culture that teaches us mainly about the objectification and the exploitation for profit of bodies, which usually is aligned to the sexualization of bodies, there is so much unlearning to do. And so part of this 6 weeks that we're moving in, and starting with the seeding at the 0 degree of the new moon, I encourage you. What happens when you think about being devoted out of a sanctifying love and care and service to your body? Part of the tragedy of what Western media continues to do is it teaches us only about the objectification and sexualization of the body. And this has nothing to do with embodiment at all. And it teaches us that the body is an object to be consumed by others, by a partner, by folks we don't know, so that we can somehow measure up. And all that does is strip us of what it means to fully come from the inside out. Embodiment comes from body consciousness, from the inside out of how our body is alive and making meaning and connected to the ecosystems we are a part of, connected to source. Every single element exists in the body. And from a spiritual evolutionary astrology perspective, the body becomes a source of connection and understanding. And when we are taught to think of the body as an object, something to be consumed, something that it either is good or bad, that's often connected to body shape, it has nothing to do with this sanctifying devotion, because the body is the vessel of our soul's manifestation in this earthly form. It is how we connect to literally the ecosystems that we're part of, how we have the wisdom of the trees and we connect to them and we feel the tides. Like, I am learning so much in my body because I'm living with the Bay of Fundy, some of the biggest tides in the world. And it's like, oh, water, please come back in. Our bodies are always speaking to us, but they usually speak in a language that does not fit into the demarcations of what we've been taught through cognitive determination, what's also referred to as cognitive imperialism, especially from indigenous wisdom traditions. The body speaks, and Virgo can bring us in to this beautiful devotion to the body, not so that we can look a certain way and go out and have social capital, so that we can honor the way that divine source is speaking with us and directing us through the body. The body leads, and it's led by Pisces. And our first lunar eclipse is really going to help us with that because that moon is conjunct the North Node in Pisces. Yeah, thumbs up to that. Thanks. And so for folks that don't know, when I make certain gestures, because I'm having to use my computer to record long stories in my technology world, but so it's making that with my hand gestures. I don't know how to turn it off. I tried to figure it out. And if someone knows, you can put it in the comments. And so there's this devotion to the body as that which connects us to literally what we're here to do. And so this new moon is beautiful to seed in to the way that we can be of service to our own mind-body connection, which brings deep healing. Virgo is a sign associated with healing. And it wants to do that through dedication and service and focus. But it needs to be focused on the here and now. Virgo can get in trouble when it's going too far ahead. Capricorn is earth energy that is kind of structured to go ahead, and then Capricorn could get in trouble for the reasons it's going ahead. But Virgo really does need to be here and now. Virgo is also our daily habits. It's our daily habits that are in service of our mind-body connection. So again, where you have Virgo in your chart, whatever Virgo placements you have, whatever Pisces placements you have, this is all going to be part of how yourself is working with this energy. But it is incredible and really what I'm talking about, all of this focus on Virgo energy and the way that I'm talking about it at length is because we're entering 6 weeks of working with it and of clearing out and of really honoring a new devotional way of life that is not aligned to power over ideologies. Everything I was talking about in terms of the objectification of the body, all of that is rooted entirely in patriarchal understandings of power and identity and control. And so when Virgo is opposite Pisces, it wants its devotion and its structuring and its ability to focus, to be honoring divine source mystery. It wants our bodies to be a site of that honoring. And next layer, our new moon on the 23rd is in an inconjunct with Saturn at 0 degrees of Aries, also Neptune, but it's very direct, exact with Saturn. It's also in an inconjunction with Pluto, who is in Aquarius, and it is squaring Uranus and Sedna. Beautiful. All our outer planets are speaking through our 0 degrees seeding with this first new moon, this first Virgo new moon. So also, now this is important because of where Saturn is going. Saturn is going, and Neptune are going back into Pisces. There is more dissolving. There is more breakdown of those structures, especially of how we organize our sense of self, how that connects to the collective, how that connects to spirituality. And September 1st, Saturn goes back into Pisces. So right now we're seeding in an inconjunction with Saturn in Aries. This is a Saturn. We have had a journey with this first glimpse of Saturn in Aries conjunct Neptune, of some of the new structures of self that are needing to develop, that are coming into being, that we are going to spend the next 3 years with as Saturn comes back into Aries. But it's not, it's not just the rehearsal of what it is. It's a taste of it, because it's going to be radically different when Saturn comes back into Aries after having gone into Pisces. So that's why, especially in the in conjunction that this new moon is talking with, there is something that we need to seed into for the next 6 weeks. There is something that we need to seed into in terms of care for yourself right now. That is about how your sense of self is changing. That is about this massive dissolving of the old and the birthing of the new. And those habits, they're going to change. And they especially want to take us through into that second Virgo new moon, which is at the final degree, the wisdom degree, also the death degree. Can't get out of it, folks. In this life, our wisdom comes fuller and fuller and fuller. We get to death, and the 29th degree represents that. And so there's also something somewhat temporary and transient about what we need to really focus in on right now, but we need to focus in on it. And that is squaring Uranus and Sedna. Uranus and Sedna, this is not just the outer planets talking with Uranus and Gemini, it's Uranus conjunct Sedna. And that will be exact in 2026. This goes so deep. I want to hold how deep this goes, especially for those of us who carry within us, within our bodies, within our psyches, the imprints of our archetypal wounds, the wounds that we were born into in this life. And these are deep. In ordinary society language, we're talking about complex childhood trauma. We're talking about intergenerational trauma that manifests in complex trauma in this life. In astrology, we're talking about archetypal woundings, which are the imprints on the psyche. But Sedna is so important to teach us that those woundings are not, firstly, anything that we are at fault for, anything that we haven't worked hard enough, that we haven't done our whatever someone is telling us we need to do to fix our mind and become normal. We are welcoming neurodivergence here with Sedna. And Uranus in Gemini, welcoming neurodivergence. And this is calling forth that everything I was talking about Virgo in devotion to the body, it is also honoring your journey, your embodied journey, and the stories that live in the body psyche. This is part of what I think is such a deep sadness of a culture that is so shallow and superficial about the body and trying to literally erase the ways our body stories us throughout our whole life, the internal and the external. And instead of feeling shame for the wrinkles and the tears and the scars, honoring them because they're real and they're the life embodied. And we do not need to feel shame or erase that or try and make ourselves look like we're 20-something when we're supposed to be maturing into our embodied wisdom. And for us that hold archetypal wounds and that patterning, survivors, I know I got a lot of survivors on my channel. We are being called to honor with love and devotion in a radical way this new seeding of the self. That Uranus and Sedna, they're in a square to the first new moon, saying, don't cover over the stories of the self. Let them be part of how you communicate to your body, to yourself. Let that be part of what is restructuring the self with that Saturn and Neptune. Let that be part of our expanding, birthing spirituality. And then at our partial solar eclipse, which is that second new moon on the 21st of September, we're going to have the Uranus and Sedna in a trine to our new moon, also in a trine with Pluto. And it's going to be opposite Saturn, who will at that time, and Neptune, at that time, Saturn will be in Pisces. We'll be in a different process, and I will talk about that. But here, there's this crucial seeding in. There's this honoring. This is a new relationship to our developing sense of self. Our developing sense of self is going to change. But there's also something as we come into this new moon, this is preparing us for eclipse season. And there is something, when I was sitting with this energy of this eclipse season, of this new moon, of what is happening with that South Node in Virgo, I got this strong sense of this dislodging, this dislodging of that block in the Virgo body-mind relationship. And that dislodging is what is allowing us to plant these seeds. And then as we move, we plant these seeds with this first new moon, and then we move through eclipse season. Eclipse season is the dislodging. That's what portals do in eclipse season. And then it lets these seeds take root, and they're going to take root at the 29th degree of Virgo, which is deep. And that is ancient healer, witchy wisdom. Okay. And it's also beautiful, but it's beautiful in the definition of that word that is not the same as pretty. Beautiful, when I work with it, includes our depths, it includes the hard bits, it includes Sedna's stories of trauma and betrayal. And there is in Sedna the birth of the Inuit goddess of the ocean. So there's so many layers to what's happening here. And it's part of a process, allowing the process, but really with this new moon seeding in to whatever resonated with you from when I was opening up, the new devotion to your own body, mind, to your own service in honoring the way that divine mystery is leading you and your soul's dance. Because we got Virgo, Pisces, eclipse season upon us. And that is about that divine dance with us. Okay. There's other layers to this new moon. I'll go into them more as we get closer, but I do just want to mention Chiron, because Chiron is going to be retrograde at 26 degrees of Aries, going to be back in its conjunction with Eris. And it's squaring Venus, who's at 26 degrees of Cancer. And Chiron is, in some approaches in modern astrology, a co-ruler of Virgo. Mercury is our traditional ruler, Chiron, and I work with Chiron as a co-ruler, if not dominant ruler of Virgo. And that always adds another layer. And so Chiron is in a square with Venus, and Chiron's retrograde in Aries. Chiron is taking us back to help us retune to those Aries fires that are about healing our sacred Aries primal flame. The way that when we're connected to that flame, it is our greatest source of wisdom with Chiron, and how it helps us to be a teacher to others. But there's a wound to that connection to primal flame, and that's what Chiron's working on. And Chiron's going to move into Taurus, but first it's going retrograde in Aries. And it's squaring Venus in Cancer. And Venus is on such a journey in Cancer, because that's where she had her conjunction with Jupiter, started a new cycle, seeding into new values connected to love, and how love creates part of our understanding of the world is part of that conjunction she had with Jupiter. And she's been talking to Vesta and Juno, Black Moon Lilith, and there's been so much divine water energy leading up to this new moon, and she's going to be in a square with Chiron. So there is, this, and that's a layer of this new moon. And so there, it's really just repeating this attention to self-care and love that is not trying to attach itself, to external ideas of what self-love is, especially if those external ideas are entirely around a scaffolding, which is the case in dominant media narratives of power over ideologies, which gets into everything I was talking about with the body. This is about actual love. It is not love that's driven by a media industry teaching about self-love. That's about profit. That's about selling something. That's about making very few people a heck of a lot more money while simultaneously using the language of self-love and still body shaming. This blows that away. Chiron is like, burn that shit up. This is about our primal self. Primal, like feel into that word. And that needs to be going into the ways that we care for ourselves, that we restructure our understanding of love. If it's not, the square is going to create tension. But when the square is allowing both of the energies of both signs to fulfill their archetypal drive, that's when we have got so much dynamic energy and they're allowing each other to work in this really unique way. I love squares. And when we're not, they remind us pretty quickly with the tension. So, but it really is just driving the self-love, this care home. But the new moon makes us remember that it's Virgo and it's ultimately connecting us to source, which is what then we're going to enter an eclipse season. And I will talk more about that. And I'll be doing more workshoppy stuff with that on Patreon realms for folks that are there, because I love me eclipse season. But it's a lot. So I'm going to leave it there. And I am sending lots of love as always. And I will see you soon. Be well.